I don't know whether you can hear some background noise. Am I audible?
Yes, so we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you properly.
Okay, good. So I'm going to share my screen.
Mom.
All right, let me know whether you can all see my presentation, right? So we're going to discuss matters databases. So any application that is used out there, at the end of the day, at the back of it, there's some type of database. It could be an Oracle database, it could be a MySQL database, it could be Microsoft SQL database, it could be a NoSQL database. So really, so databases, so it could range from, you know, being a database developer, a data modeler, a database administrator when you deal with infrastructure, that is installation of the RDBMS and supporting it, maintaining it, you know, there are those parts. So, but then, so I'm going to just focus my presentation on Oracle, Microsoft SQL, and DB2 as the most common relational databases that are used. And then for NoSQL databases, I'm going to just talk about HBase. They are more, there's Hadoop, there's Cassandra. So we're just going to talk about HBase. So Oracle, the current version of Oracle is, so we have 12C, and then we are into version 19 right now, 19i. But then, so right now the concept they use is for 12C, that's the cloud, Oracle cloud. So it's an RDBMS that is deployable to the cloud. So, and then, so the concept is there is Oracle RAC. Oracle RAC means RAC is real application clusters. So what this means is that instead of having the old, you know, how the old databases used to be, you have one database you install, has one point of failure. So now what we're doing is having clusters. So instead of having one database with one server on, you know, on one server, that's it, we have the same Oracle instance running on a couple of servers. So this is to introduce redundancy so that if one node, so I'm going to use the word node and cluster interchangeably. Node and cluster, it's a word that I will use interchangeably, meaning the same thing, meaning that one Oracle server that is going to be used. So what happens is that, so let me minimize this a little bit because there's something that came in. Okay, yeah. So Oracle RAC clusters provide customers with the highest database availability by removing individual database servers as a single point of failure. So as I'd mentioned, so clusters, what they do is introduce the concept of, so if one node is up, say for example, we have two nodes. Normally we install them in terms of even number. So we could have mostly to the max of 2 or 4, but then two is what is commonly used as accepted standard. So you have one instance that is running on 2 servers, same instance, same data. So if I access any of those nodes, I'm accessing the same data. At the end of the day, they're putting data into the same database tables, accessing the same objects. So each server has access to the same database. So what happens is that if one server goes down, the other cluster, the other node is available for access. So this is just to ensure that there is HA availability. So at no one point do we have a database going down and then it's totally, the application is cut off from accessing the database. So on top of RAC, so there's a concept, I know I did not include it in my presentation, but then I mentioned it as one of the things that I'm going to talk about. There's something called data guard. Data guard is a concept that is used with RAC. So data guard has, you have a primary database and a primary instance and a standby instance. So the primary instance is what the application accesses. And then the standby, so what it does, what DataGuard does is that it ships logs, the archive logs. Archive logs are, they are records of every transaction that happens in the primary database or in any database. So, so normally what you do is that you enable archive log mode from the from the backend, and then so that you ship these logs to the standby. So what happens is that the primary is on read write, meaning that you can select data from it, you can update tables, so it's on read write, and then the standby is on read only, meaning that you can only apply logs, and then you can only read, you cannot update that database. So what this does is that, so if the primary is up and running, so it's consistent with the standby because logs are shipped. So normally what you can configure that for every, so there is a lag. Normally what would happen is that the log shipping, normally because of dependency on network, at times there's a lag. Probably you can introduce a lag of 5 seconds or 10 seconds. So what happens is that once the primary database goes down, the standby switches automatically. So the standby database switches automatically and it becomes the primary as you fix issues that happened to the primary, and then so before you switch it, you switch it back to it being the primary, and then the standby going back to the standby. So DataGuard and RAG are used interchangeably. So we have DataGuard having primary and standby, and then you apply RAG on top of DataGuard, so that on the primary we have a couple of nodes running one instance, and then on the standby we have a couple of nodes. So at no one time, that if the primary database that is running a couple, 2 nodes, 3 nodes, 2 nodes or 4 nodes, if one node goes down, then the other nodes are available. If the primary and all the 4 nodes of the database go down, then the standby, which has also 4 nodes, will be available. If any of the node in standby goes down, then we have the 3 other nodes that will be available and accessible to, for the application or users to do, to access data. So the concept of Oracle and of RAC and DataGuard it is something that is most DBAs, if you're going to be an infrastructure DBA, that is dealing with installation and managing backups, taking recoveries, that is one concept that you really need to get. So I might not I might not scroll through but then what I'm going to, so this is Oracle clusters. We've talked about this, and then, so normally what happened if Oracle from version 8.i, 9i, 10G, so they used to provide, those are versions of Oracle. They used to, what used to happen is that you install using file system. So you create your server, and then you create mount points, like mount point /u01, and then /backup where you /logs, where you put your logs. So you see what would happen in this case if, say for example, one shared fold, like one of those mounted points, somebody interfered with it or deleted them accidentally, or that server failed, is that all your files are going to disappear unless you had a backup in place. And for backups at the server level, so there is something, I'm sure everybody is, people have heard about mirroring. So where you mirror an actual server without you copy the exact same contents of a server to a backup server. So it has everything, both the application, database, any configuration settings that you have on that server is mirrored onto another server. So if the first server fails, then you can go to your backup where you've mirrored and then try and recover from that. But what happens is this type of configuration of using file system to install database is that corruption would see you are mirroring the whole server, the whole box. So if corruption, like if data was corrupted on one folder, you are copying plus the corrupted data to the backup location. You see, now that would introduce, so if you are trying to recover that database, then you would have problems recovering.
So chicken.
Sorry?
Chicken.
I think
Hello?
Jackie trying to introduce herself.
Oh, yes. So I can stop then. Who was talking again?
I'm sorry, it's Jackie. I hadn't put myself on mute.
Yeah, I was wondering what did the chicken do?
I was trying to eat some chicken. I'm sorry. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. That's fine. Yeah, so we were talking about mirroring. So I know I'm jumping in between those concepts. Just stop me if you have a question. So what mirroring does is that it copies the whole server contents to a backup to another mirrored server. So what happens is that if the data is corrupted in the first server, you are copying plus the corrupted data. So if you're trying to recover it, then what will happen is that you'll not be able to recover. So that's why Oracle introduced something called ASM. So ASM is automatic storage management. So what it does is that instead of using file system locations like /u01 / if most of you understand, or if you don't, on Unix platforms. So if you create a directory, the mount points, and then directory is how you name them, /u01, and then probably where you're going to store your data files, you're going to create it as /u01 /data files, and then if it's log files /u02. So you're trying to, how is it called, to distribute so that you have, say, your log files on U01, and then your data files on U02, and then your control files for the database on U03. So so that if something goes down, if U01 is not accessible, then you can use U02 where the log files are and the control files to recover your database. So Oracle introduced a concept called Oracle automatic storage management, which is a feature of the Oracle database. It provides Oracle customers with simplified storage management that is consistent across all servers. So I'm not going to read word by word because I think it's easier explaining it. So what this does is that instead of having, it's a concept that uses, it applies the same concept as NAS, the network area storage. So what it does, ASM, what does, you have a raw disk. So if you have a disk, say 200 GB, then you can add, so you create a disk group, that is a group of disks that the database is going to use to create the data. So all your control file, all your configurations will be on this disk group. So normally you create, so for Oracle ASM, you have raw disks, then you add them to disk groups, and then so all these clusters. So you remember we talked about Oracle Rack. So Rack is clusters, nodes. So we have server 1, server 2, server 3, 4 running the same instance of Oracle. So they're accessing the same ASM instance, the ASM Oracle instance that runs the storage, so that we're accessing the same data. So at no one point is like one cluster accessing different data. And then, so Oracle ASM, with the good thing about it is that you can multiplex it, so that you can duplicate the storage that is on one disk group and then duplicate it to another disk group just for backup, for easy access in case of if something that like failure happens. So so with ASM, storage is managed as a small number of storage pools called ASM disk groups. So if you
Yes, Cliff.
yes,
Can I chime in a little bit?
yeah, it's okay.
Do you have an architecture diagram for oracles?
Oh, okay. Let me try and get it.
So
I
that
do not.
you can have a visual of what you're explaining, because sometimes if you explain with a visual picture.
Yeah, that it will make sense. Yeah, let me. Yeah. I'm going to. I have one here. Let me just.
There's one I found on the internet. I can forward that to you, if, just in case.
Do not have one that let me see. I think I have some notes that I did.
I've sent you one on WhatsApp. I don't know if that works.
Let me see. I wish we had like something where I could draw something.
No, if you check on your WhatsApp, or I can send you via email.
Yeah, I've seen what you're talking about, but that's not exactly what I. So this is it. Yeah, this is what. Let's use this image here. This one here. Exactly, it has everything. Those concepts that I've talked about. So if everybody, so can you all see this? The ASM cluster configuration with Oracle Rack. You guys can see it, right?
No, we are not seeing an image yet.
All right, let me do this.
That means you have to stop the slide and then you share this, the image itself.
I'm going to create one image.
Or maybe you can be switching between slides.
Yes, I think I should do that. So, okay, you can see my slide, right?
Yes.
So this is what I'm talking about. Remove this, delete that. So everybody can see that. So this is the concept that I'm talking about. So Rack, you see, we have two servers. So we have one server, two server running the same instance. So we could have, and then the storage, Oracle storage management. You see, I talked about this group. So you have this group, and then these two clusters. So say node 1 and node 2 are accessing the same disk group, right? So you could have this group A. So the way Oracle works is that it has control files. These control files define from the image that.
4 p.m. yesterday.
Sorry? Do you have a question?
I think somebody needs to be on mute.
It's okay. So I'll go ahead. But if you have a question, just let me know. So so you see, like for this, we're talking about. So this is one node on a cluster. So we have the same, so we have, this is a database cluster. So we have cluster 1 or node 1 and node 2. And then this is the ASM in, when we talk about, so this is another cluster of say, you have probably on the primary or the standby, but then this is just a cluster of another node of the database. So we have five nodes of the same database accessing the same shared automatic storage management. So the way the concept of Oracle works is that we have, Oracle has different files that it uses. It has control files that define the various parameters of the database itself. You use the control files to start up the application, the database. And then we have log files. Log files are, so we have like archive logs, redo logs, online redo logs. So what happens is that these are the logs. These are files that contain the changes, every transactional change that is happening in the database. So we could define, this is a raw disk. So this is one raw disk, two second raw disks. So this group A has this disk group A has 4 raw disks. And for this to work, these raw disks you have to make sure that these raw disks have the same capacity. So you cannot have these having 200 GB, 300 GB, 400 GB, 600 GB. What it will happen is that so there is when you're creating this group, there's a command that you do rebalance. So this group, Oracle, start up the ASM, and then rebalance this group. So what it does is that it cuts off at the minimum. So if the smallest disk group is 200 GB, it's going to assume all the raw disks that you have added are 200 GB. So you are going to waste the other, if this has 600 GB, so you're going to waste the other 400 GB. There'll be no data, so that will be written onto the 400 GB. So what happens is that you must ensure that these raw disks have the same capacity. Any raw disk within any disk group must have the same capacity. So you could have this raw disk having 200 GB, 200 gig, but then in this group B, you decide each, cause probably this group B, you're going to say it's going to store the control file. Control files, their size is they're in KBs. So you're going to probably say you only need 50 gig. So you're going to have 25 gig or 50 gig of each of these raw disks. So this is the concept. So this is an ASM storage, an ASM clustered storage. This is a database rack cluster concept. So those are the two things that I've talked about. So any question at this, up to this time, anybody with a question? Something that.
One question is, I'm seeing 5 servers on the picture. So the first 2 are doing a different function from the second 2 and
no. So this is what happens. So so we have, when we talk about clusters, so what we mean is that, so a cluster is a group of servers, right? A cluster, what, like normally in any English word, like when you say a cluster, what, like it defines like it's a group or some, or you know. So what we have here is that, so on this Oracle rack server, so what we have is we have a database. So they are doing the same. So if I introduce the other concept of data guard on this, we would have the same similar setup on the standby on another, say, we would have this duplicated on another instance, so that we have this as the primary. So we have this whole unit as the primary, and then the other unit as a secondary, which is on the standby. So these servers, so this, what is happening is that the first, so we have one node, second node, third node, fourth node. So they have given an example with 5 nodes. Normally, it's recommended that you use an even number of nodes for when you're setting up clusters. So what happens is that so when you have this, say this has its own IP, has its own IP, it's a different server, has its own IP, and then you have configured the VIPs, the scan IPs for when you're configuring rack. So each has its own unique IP, but then they're accessing. So when you access an application, you do not know whether the load balancer for this database is going to assign you to this node, this node, this node, this node, or the other node. So these all 5 servers are thing. They are running the same instance that one instance that Oracle is running. So if I was to say provide, say for example, we have users in a different department, we can give them these IPs to access. So if to distribute the load, we can give them these 2 IPs. And then we have, say, for example, the marketing department, we can give them these 2 IPs for these 2 database servers. And then we have, say, probably then we can give them this IP for this server. So, but when they're accessing the same data, right? So it's just to distribute, or it's just to distribute the load and avoid failure. So if this node went down, so if this node on the first, this group went down, so what will happen is that these will be available. And then, so what happens if all these 3 went down? These 2 will be available. What happens if this one went down? Or if all the 5 went down, then that is where you should always, it's recommended for production database, configure data guard. So what data guard does is that it has a duplicate of this on the standby. So it's only read only. So normally you configure an automatic switch from primary to the standby. So if data guard checks and finds that all these 5 primary nodes are down, then it will switch automatically the secondary to the primary. And then all these users will be rerouted to access the standby database, which will be now switched to read-write. So what will happen is that now you'll just switch the mode instead of being read-only to read-write, and this is done automatically. Normally, some people prefer that they switch this database manually, because at times a network fluctuation could happen. And then DataGuard is going to assume that the primary is not available. So it's going to switch off, like it's going to switch to the standby, and then the primary will become, so normally it entails having a DBA checking that, verifying that really the primary nodes are down before you switch to the secondary. I hope I was able to explain. I know I've talked a lot.
So I'm just wondering, I see your slide has 25 slides. Do you think you'll have time to finish everything? Or,
yeah. So I've talked about ASM. So I've talked about the key benefits of, so during our discussion, so what we've seen is, we can go through and then see what we can cover. So the key benefits of ASM is it simplifies and automates storage management. Then it increases storage utilization and agility. So really like I talked about the disadvantages of using file system during installation, like using the file, the /U01 and U02 when installing, instead of using ASM storage. So that is, I think we've talked so much about Oracle. So I'm just going to take 5 minutes to talk about Microsoft SQL Server and DB2. And then we can see how far we'll go with our presentation. But then I think it's better if we just if we just discuss one slide, but at least it answers all the questions instead of just running through the 25 slides and then we don't get anything, or we're not interested in anything.
So also before you do you have any visual picture for SQL structure, architecture that you can share?
SQL, I'll find it and then I'll share with you. So the concept of Microsoft SQL Server, they are relational databases. So I'm just going to combine Microsoft SQL and DB2. I'm going to talk through them. I think you can share what's it called? The slide with the people on Ivan. I think you can share the slide with the people on the call. So if they can go through. So I'm not going to read word by word in the slide.
Okay.
Yeah. So SQL Server and DB2. SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server is from Microsoft. And then Oracle is from Oracle, and then DB2 is from IBM. So these are proprietary, relational databases. So they do exactly the same. They do the exact same thing. So they are relational databases. So use the concept of tables and relations of primary keys, so to store data. So I'm going to talk on the infrastructure side. So Microsoft SQL also has the same architecture, but then it does not use automatic storage management on its end. So the good thing with there's something that I've mentioned here, SQL Server Management Studio, SSMS. This is a tool that is used to, so once you've installed your Microsoft SQL database, so you need a tool to access it, like to execute your queries, to see your relationship, so you use Microsoft SQL. So it is an integrated environment for managing any SQL infrastructure. And I forgot to mention, for Oracle, so if you're good with commands, you can use the black screen. That is, you log into the server and execute your commands there, or you can use a product called, I'm going to share in the, where is our chat? Our chat, I'm trying to see where our chat is. Can somebody ping? So I'm going to mention them, but so in Oracle, so in Oracle, you can use, there's a product called Toad or SQL Developer. So you can use that to access and manage Oracle instances. So Microsoft SQL, so it has the same concept of any relational database. So it has a backup and restore. It has those always on availability groups. That is the same thing in Oracle. It's called clusters. And then always on failover in Oracle, it's called data guard. So it's the same concept of, ensuring there is availability of the database. And then if the primary node fails, and then we have a secondary node where you can always point your application to for recovery purposes. And then data guard relies on log shipping. So that is on the on Oracle. DataGuard is an Oracle. Don't confuse the two. DataGuard is an Oracle product, and it's not used with Microsoft SQL databases. So Microsoft SQL database has the service. They're always on failover and database mirroring. So database mirroring is the same concept as Oracle's DataGuard. So what it does is that it does log shipping. So if the primary database, the logs, we write archive logs, any changes that happen. So it's shipped to the standby, which is not accessible. It's on read only, and then the logs are applied so that the primary and the standby are in sync. And if the primary goes down, you can always switch to the standby and then access the database. So IBM DB2. So it's also a relational database product from IBM. So the current version the current version is on 10.5, and then it offers the so these are the what features that the features that IBM offers, the DB2 offers, the IBM's BLU acceleration. This is an in-memory technology from IBM. So this is to improve performance again. And then storage optimization, the same concept that Oracle and Microsoft SQL databases offer. So for IBM, for Oracle, there is ASM, and then Pure Scale. That is another feature that comes with DB2, Oracle, IBM's DB2. That is, you can access your data through multiple hosts for continuous availability. So if any of you what this means is that if you can access your data through multiple hosts for continuous, that in Oracle it's called rack. So you have different clusters. So also IBM also gives you the same. Only difference that now IBM DB2 and the other database, that's the relational Oracle and Microsoft, is the concept of instance. In Microsoft SQL, when you talk about an Oracle instance, it's just one instance. So that is one database. So if you want to create another database, that is another instance. But DB2, when you talk about an instance, it is the whole installation. One instance could have database. It could have one database, but at the same time, it could have multiple. So you could have 2, 3, 4, 5 databases in an IBM. About an instance, you mean one database, yes?
I think you're kind of breaking. I don't know if everybody can, is everybody hearing Cliff properly?
It was breaking a bit.
Oh, okay.
It's breaking, but it's not that we cannot decipher what he's saying, but it is breaking a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I felt the breaks.
Oh,
I wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page.
Yeah, that's good for letting me know. So that's the same. So IBM, the only difference that I've mentioned is that an instance in DB2 would have multiple databases, but then in Oracle and Microsoft SQL, an instance means just one database. So all these databases use SQL as a way of either manipulating the data, accessing the data, that is retrieving it, creating objects. You use the create command. So so it has also, so IBM DB2 has, it's compatible with SQL. So that's, it's not, it's just one of its features. And then it also has the disaster recovery. So in case of failure on the primary, so it offers, these databases also offer, IBM also offers recovery options. So in Oracle, there's a tool called RMAN, Recovery Manager. I did not mention it. So Recovery Manager is a tool that comes with Oracle database. So what you do is that it uses its own RMAN commands to backup, recover, you can create a catalog of databases that you can use within a script to do that. So that's for Oracle and Microsoft SQL. But then also for DB2, it also gives you that capability. So I'm going to talk about another concept, automation as a service. So the reason why we need to talk about this is because people say that DBA's jobs are becoming fewer and fewer as we automate things. Right now, things like creating a database. So organizations like the organization that I work for, it has already like scripts that have been embedded in an application. So if you just need a database, you just specify you want ASM, rack on data guard, you just specify, click a button, and then it creates. But then those scripts have been put together by a database. So automation as a service is whereby you automate day-to-day manual processes like backups, recovery, creating new databases. So what happens is that you create scripts that run in the background. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that was.
Okay, so sorry about that. So these scripts, automation, so you automate database installation, backups, recovery using AAA jobs. So an example of where automation as a service has been used for databases is Kubernetes, Ansible, Chef, it's Terraform, not Terraform, it's Terraform, that is a typo. And then Google Cloud Deployment Manager. So those are some of the automation as service concepts that can be used for databases. So instead of having instead of a DBA spending time to every evening, you go create a command to backup, verify the backup has completed successfully. So what you do is automate this so that every day at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. your database is backed up. It verifies that the backup was complete and successful, and the backup can be used to recover the database, and then it sends out a notification to you or other DBAs that this backup was completed. So that is where automation as a service comes in. So it's a very wide area in databases. So, but then that is where we could use it. And then vMotion. vMotion is, just as the word suggests, it detects. So it's like the virtual cameras that we use, or the motion detector cameras that we use. So if anything happens that is out of the ordinary in a server, say for example, it checks. So like if you want to say, for example, you logged into a server and you want to check if a database is running. So one of the things you could do is type in an SQL plus s/sysdba, and then it's able to connect to any instance. Or you can ps -ef grep Oracle, and then it's supposed to give you all the instances of Oracle that are running. So vMotion, it's a product from VMware. So what it does is that you configure it so that it runs automatically. Every 5 seconds, it runs and checks these services, whether they are running. And if they are not running, then you configure it. So for example, if it does a ps-ef grep, and then it realizes that the Oracle instance is not running in that server. So what it does is that it executes the script to start up the Oracle instance. So that is what vMotion does. So you can configure it for applications, you can configure it for databases, and so it has various applications that they can be used. So that is for vMotion. Any question on that? So on my presentation, what I've defined, what I've talked about this, so there is more details on how vMotion works and how you can configure it. So you can always look at the presentation, and if you have any question or configure vMotion, you just let me know. We can stand a Kubernetes instance or a sandbox, and then configure your service. It does not need to be a database application. It could be your Tableau instance. It could be your reporting tool. And then, so if your reporting tool goes down, instead of having to like, hey, I cannot run my reports, your users are saying, I cannot run my reports, is that vMotion detects that this service has gone down, and then it starts it. So, and then verifies that it has started successfully. So you can add validation checks to your script to make sure that that happens properly. Then finally, not finally, but on Matters databases, there's something called NoSQL databases. That is non-SQL database. So we are not, so all relational database that we use, relational meaning we have tables, columns, rows, and then data is related through primary keys, foreign keys, so, and then the way to access that database is to create SQL scripts, joins. You create joins to join different tables and read and report from the database. But then, so relational databases have like a limit to where it can be used. So like, especially right now with the advent of social media. So the thing is, right now, we are generating a lot of unstructured data. Unstructured data is like images, videos, songs, things that on YouTube, like they have no structure in the sense that they probably have no relations to, you cannot store them to have relationship with any other record, like say, for example, bank details. Like if it's a bank account detail, so it can only say a bank account can only be associated with one individual. And that one individual probably cannot be associated with only one SSN, or probably associated with 2, 1, or 3 mortgages. So that is the concept of relational. But for NoSQL databases is for where direct relations cannot work for storing data, and then we use it for unstructured data. So there are tens of databases, like couple NoSQL databases that have come up. Is that there's Cassandra, there's Hadoop, there's HBase, and there are many, MongoDB, and they're used for different. So some can be used for document management, where you can index your documents for searching, for ease of searching, especially for MongoDB. And then HBase, which is a NoSQL database, is used on top of Hadoop. Hadoop is so people confuse. There's usually a confusion out here. People say that Hadoop is not a database. Hadoop is I would say is an infrastructure environment. Hadoop has clusters of application, or it has clusters of applications. So on top of Hadoop, so it stores files. Hadoop stores files, but then on top of that, we have HBase, which is now a NoSQL database that can be used to access all the records that have been stored in the HDFS, or what you call a Hadoop file system environment. So there are different types. So I mentioned a couple of them. So they are document databases. So these are the document databases. These are NoSQL databases that store data in documents similar to JSON files. I know most of you are programmers, or you've heard of JSON or JavaScript object notation in full. And then, so each document contains pairs of fields and values. So if it's, say, for example, I'm going to give an example with an X-ray file. Say you've gone to the hospital, and then your X-ray has been taken. We need to store this image and then associate it with you. What's going to happen is that we're going to store this in a document a database, and then make sure that we tag that image with an ID, and then that ID is going to reference it to a specific patient. So that is the concept of document database. And then there is a key value databases. These are simple type of database where each item contains keys and values. So we have a key. So each record has a key and the value that key represents. So basically that's so an example of such a database is Dynamo or Redis. Redis is from Amazon. I'm sure probably some of you have come across it. And then, so we have the wide column store. So these are the wide store data. This is a description of how this how the value databases are used to. So a good application of a graph database, which is a NoSQL database, is how does Amazon or how does Uber, say for example, if you are going, say for example you order an Uber from point A to point B. So how does Uber know that what direction is it going to use? Like which is the shortest route possible from point A to point B. So graph has the same concept. So it stores data in nodes and edges. So a node, the concept of a node and edge. So if one node, so say I'm going to have a triangle. I'm going to illustrate with a triangle. If you have a triangle with three edges, A, B, and C, and then those edges represent a distance from point A to point B, so the graph database will store the edge and what the vertices or the nodes, the vertices, and what the edge represents. So these are used. So currently we've used it, like for me, we apply it in the ITSM, the Incident Management System, ITSM for creating changes that are going to be implemented. So that is where, so this is, we use it for which ITSM was raised for, from which office, or from which Australia, whether it's from Ghana. So this is a concept that you can use for graph databases. So this is where you need traverse relationship to look for patterns such as social networks, fraud detection. You can use that for fraud detection, but then and recommendation engines. So that's one concept of graph databases. So NoSQL database, it's a very wide concept. It's a new concept, not like new 3 years ago, but new 15 years ago. And people are adopting it right now. People are using it. So if you have any question on how to set up any of those graph databases any of those NoSQL databases, you can always ask me. I'll leave my email at the end of this. So if you have it, you can always set up. If you're interested in learning HBase, Cassandra, if it's Hadoop, configuring it, you can always contact, and then we can always do. So I thought I would go through the sessions faster, and then so we'd have a practical session with HBase, but then I still have 5 slides to go through. So I'll finish my slides, and then we'll see what we can do. Any question up to this time? I know we have still 4 minutes. Okay, silence is probably no question. So, okay. So how do you start as a DBA? So there are various, if interested in being a DBA, so you need to start with OCA. So that is Oracle Certified Associate. So there are 2 exams. So there's a SQL Fundamentals and Administration Fundamentals. So, and then after OCA, you go to OCP, Oracle Certified Professional. This is where you learn the concepts that I just talked about, RAC, data guard. So infrastructure-wise, how to maintain an instance, like how to configure memory, things like Java. It took 5 seconds to execute. Right now, I'm trying to run this report. I started yesterday, it's running up to today. Like it's been 12 hours and it's not giving results. So OCP is where you'll cover tuning. That is another session that we could have that I would take with you or for interested Oracle DBAs or DBAs, what to look for in performance tuning, the parameters that you need to edit or modify, change to make sure that your queries are performing optimally. So you database training, so it's OCA, OCP to Oracle Certified Expert, and then OCM. So for me, I'm an OCE, I'm an Oracle Certified Expert. So I have not done OCM. I started way back when I was still in Kenya. But then in Africa, there are 2 countries that offer the OCM exam sites. That's in Egypt and then in South Africa, or you would need to fly to Dubai. But then in US, I've seen there are a couple. Even here in Houston, there's a place where you can go and get certified. And then for Microsoft SQL databases, so you start with MTA, Microsoft Technology Associate for databases. So they'll teach you the concept, the introduction of, the concept of how to install Microsoft SQL Server, how to manage it, and then after the MTA, you can go to MCSA, Microsoft Certificate. I know they said they are going to retire this MCSA, so that we have, so directly they are going to Microsoft, so they are going to introduce a course that Microsoft Technology Professional, MTP, for databases. So you can always look around. So there are many colleges or online, like Udemy, there are lecturers there that can teach, or you can contact me. We can always go through the courses together. And then motivation for most people why you choose a given career. So some people like whatever they do, and some people, they choose a given career because it pays well, right? So the average annual salary pay of a DBA, this is from salary.com, and from experience, from what I've seen, is around $93,000 a year per year. So, and it ranges with experience. So if you have like 2-3 years, so some organize and series too. So like I used to work in El Paso, and they used to pay well a little bit lower than what DBAs are paid, say for example in Houston, and DBAs definitely in cities like San Francisco and LA and California, where the Silicon Valley is, they pay more. So normally so the figure is between 93,000 to 116. That is for levels. Like if you work in banking, that's for level 601 and 602 associates. And then if you're vice president or Oracle tech lead, and then you would be earning something like 130, 140. So like the people that I report to, some of them earn to tune of 250,000 per year. So it will depend with experience and the skills that you have. And then, so that's the same thing with Microsoft SQL. And then the hottest thing right now in the DBA field is NoSQL DBA. So especially Mongo and Cassandra, those are the hottest things. So if you get time, so they pay well. You can see starting. So what an Oracle DBA answers 116 for 602, level 602, it starts at 133 for NoSQL database. And the concepts are the same. Now you're not using relations. How you're going to retrieve data is different, but then the concepts are the same. So you can always traverse around. And the good thing is that you can work as a SQL, as a DBA who uses SQL and a DBA who does not use SQL. The concepts are the same. So you could have a NoSQL database that has a SQL interface integrated with it. So for reporting, for things like where we said, for an example will be the key value store databases where you store a key and a value. So there is some kind of relationship. So it can work on either way. And then, so these are some of the cities people, they pay well. So these are salaries for 2 years, people with 2 years experience, 2-3 years entry level. So come from 2-3. So these are cities but these you can see from these are in California, some of these cities. So if you get more experience, the more you earn. But then these salaries change with the different cities that you're into, and how you do. Most of the time is how you negotiate your salaries. So if you say, for example, sometimes I know it's illegal, some interviewers or some recruiters will ask you like, how much do you want to, like, how much is your ask, like how much do you want to be paid? So some people undersell. Don't undersell yourself. Make sure you do a research how much that organization pays, and don't be afraid to quote. You're going to work, don't be afraid to quote a high value. It's easier, it's better to negotiate coming down instead of you underselling yourself and then getting underpaid, because really nobody, this organization, nobody cares. If they're paying you the less, and then good for them. So make sure you negotiate well when you're getting you're the first time getting that job. Then, so how long does it take to become a DBA? So I've been in the DBA field for now almost 10 years, and I'm still learning things. Things are changing, that's for sure. This is a field that every month every month or 3 months, there's a new product that comes to the market, and most organizations are ready. You see, this is what they say. Say, for example, there's a security vulnerability in some release, say Oracle 18.2, and then now they say that they're going to add another feature, release 18.3, and then add another new feature that probably DBAs need to learn. And so it's a field that you need to be on top of your game, like study, practice a lot, like it gets easier if you get your hands dirty. Like, make sure you're doing the work. Don't go to the script directly. Don't go to managing it to the relations. Like, if, say for example, you're given a box, a server, and then you're told to install. So you can do the silent install where you use commands to do the installation. That's the best way to learn. So if it fails, then you know exactly what directory, what error it's giving you. If it's an IP issue, if it's a permission issue that you have, then you get to understand. But these are the tools, is that they make work easier, but then you might fail to get the concept of how Oracle works at the end of the day. So do we have any questions? I know I've gone 5 minutes over. Oh,
yeah, I have a question.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
I have a question. Cliff, hey, Cliff, how are you? My name is Isaac. I'm trying to understand. I have knowledge of Oracle with these other packages we talked about, Golden Gate, Data Guard. I'm just trying to figure out how quickly can you learn database management systems like MongoDB, Cassandra, because I've been looking at a couple of jobs that have been posted. Those those relation databases have been on high demand on top of course, a job that is posted. They would like you to know, for example, Oracle, but then with things like Cassandra or MongoDB. So how quickly can you learn such a, because I know Oracle is, I've done Oracle. Oracle is a bit more complex. I don't know when you compare the two, for example, Mango and Cassandra, how quickly can you learn such?
So this is what I tell people. How quickly? It can be 2 days or 2 years. But if you have a concept, like if you understand, and it's true, Oracle databases, the concept of infrastructure and how data and how it is. But then the good thing with NoSQL is this MongoDB that you mentioned or Cassandra is that it's easy. So normally what I tell is within 3 months. So if you take up, say you want to do a certification. So normally like Cassandra, they offer free certification. Cassandra offers free certifications from so study, but then have a sandbox, a virtual environment where you can, like as you study, if they're saying, hey, type this command, exactly type that and try and recreate the same scenario. And then if you have a question, the best way to learn some of these things is it's easy to ask somebody. That is the easier way. Like, hey, Cliff, you know this, so tell me, and then I'll give you the command to execute. Or you can decide to research, like, hey, Google is your best friend. Right. Google, then there are these forums where people have experienced the same problems or even a bit complex issues. So the thing is, so within 3 months, you'll be able to understand the concept. So it's always good to, once you have the Oracle, the Microsoft SQL and the others, it's always good to have on the side, especially MongoDB, Cassandra, or HBase. I hope I was your question. Yeah. Any other question?
Yeah, there's a question here in the chat. I don't know if you're seeing it.
Let me see my. Yeah. I opened up my chats. What happened to my chat? Okay, okay, storage. Nope.
I can read it for you if it's taking.
You can read it for me. I'm trying. Yeah, let's not waste time.
Yeah, it is from Simon Javan Okello. Says, hello, Cliff. How can a startup utilize the services of a DBA like you on the outside of your main job? Who are other DBAs from Africa? He says Seattle area, but I think it can be anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we have a database of African people in diaspora along with the specific expertise they have? Thank you for the presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Simon, for the question. And that's a very good question. So the thing is, so we don't have a database. Oh, so this is a concept with I'm going to, so this is a concept thing. That's why we came to this platform. So we're probably going to start DBAs. There's no group that I'm aware of that has DBAs from Africa or from. But then we have DBA forums from India, DBA from Asian countries. So that is where, so I joined those groups. They will not kick me out. So we are sharing information. They like planning. So the thing we have to do is that we have to make sure that we don't share it. Like they say or does it become less of a candle? No. So make sure, so it's a very good question, Simon. You can always contact me and then we can start up a DBA group where you invite all other members that are within. There are people who want to move into DBA to take administration. You can always invite them. Another working. So normally what happens is that, you see, my job is 8 to 5. What I do after 5 o'clock. Yeah. So if you have a question, if you have a gig, if you have
I think we have some connection. Well, we are not hearing you. So everyone who wants to get the presentation, the slide, the presentation,
you see,
please paste your emails in the chat so that I can forward you the slide.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we have more 3 minutes. So those with questions, please fire up.
Yes.
Yeah, how can we get in touch with Cliff? Or probably have.
Oh, yeah. So Ivan, you can share my number, right? Just post my number on the chat. I wish I was able to. Just paste my number on the chat, and on LinkedIn, my name is Wycliffe Omwenga. This PowerPoint will have all those details. So you can contact me on LinkedIn. You can contact me by email or the number that Ivan is going to share. Let's information. Any question you ask, you can always, if you are stuck with something. This is the thing. This is the beauty of IT. If you're working on something, say you're employed as a DBA and then you're stuck. You've been told to recover some database and then your RMAN commands are not working. Your catalog is probably messed up and you need help. Hey, share your screen. I'll show you how to do it. I'll share my screen. You'll show me how to do it. That's how people learn. Right. So don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to share information. That's it from my end.
Do you have any last question?
Hey, Cliff.
Yes.
Will you be willing to do a follow-up session, like a part 2 for the practicum? That would be really good to do.
Sure. So if Ivan gives me time, I requested. If Ivan gives me time, I can set up a session for people interested in DB, and then we can do probably 1.5 hours. Practicals, I would prefer where everybody probably, so I can create a sandbox and then share a virtual environment that everybody can deploy on their machine. And then, so we have a similar environment. So if I'm running a command, everyone is also running the same command, and then we get the result. If you don't get what we're expecting, and then you can share your screen, and then we can help you fix that. That would be wonderful. If Ivan gives us in a moment, yeah.
Okay, so I think we can have. Are you okay within 2 weeks' time to have a practical session? Because it looks like people are interested in the practical part of the database.
Oh, so I have exams coming up for my master's in 2 weeks, so we can do it in May, the first week of May.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I'll be on break.
Okay.
We can, yeah, and then so if Ivan is going to share my information, please you can write and then ask what kind of practicals you want. There are probably people who are interested in reporting, writing SQL queries. There are people who are interested in performance tuning. There are people who are interested in creating pure SQL programming for SQL, like report, creating. So those are the kind of, or infrastructure-wise, or for NoSQL databases. Just write to me, and then so that I can create a session that will cater for everybody.
Okay. So thanks everybody for attending. So, when a meeting goes as past the hour, people go into a recession mode. We don't want to have a recession.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I've shared the phone number and an email for Cliff. You can please get it before I close the session. Also, those who need his slide, you can paste your emails
Yeah.
slide so that I can forward you the presentation as soon as possible. But I think now the session is done. And thanks again for this great presentation. We hope to see you next month.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Yeah.
And thanks to everybody who has attended this session.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye all. Thank you so much.
All right.